The turkey was still steaming when I realized no one was coming. 8 place settings, pressed linen, handwritten name cards, and a group photo on my sister's social media, posted 20 minutes earlier, showing my entire family eating somewhere else. They hadn't forgotten. They had chosen. What they didn't know was that 3 days earlier, my grandfather had signed something that changed everything. Stay with me, because by Christmas, they would be begging me not to open it. My name is Marin Cole. I was 35 the year my family decided I wasn't worth a chair at Thanksgiving. I should have seen it coming. Families don't suddenly exclude you. They erode you slowly. I was the practical one, the unmarried one, the one who stayed close to home while my sister moved to Denver and my brother built startups that failed loudly but heroically. I became a CPA. I handled estate taxes. I read contracts for fun. That made me useful, but never central. That November was different. It was the first year I had bought a house large enough to host everyone, my grandfather included. He was 82, slower now, forgetful in the mornings, sharp in the evenings. I set the table carefully. 8 chairs, 8 names. Even my sister's husband who never liked me. Hope is stubborn like that. At 10:12 a.m., my brother texted, "Something came up. Can't make it." At 10:18, my sister sent, "We're keeping it small this year. Next time." Small. That word echoed. Then came the photo. My parents, my siblings, my nieces, turkey carved, wine poured, at my sister's house, tagged accidentally in a group thread I hadn't been removed from yet. I called my mother. She answered over background laughter. "Oh, honey," she said, almost gently, "it just made more sense this way." Made more sense. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by food for 8, and I understood something clearly. They hadn't excluded me impulsively, they had planned it. I sat at the head of the table alone, ate quietly, let the candles burn down to wax puddles. I didn't cry, not yet. The doorbell rang at 5:47 p.m. Snow dusted the porch. My grandfather stood there, without a coat, holding an envelope. "He said they canceled," he told me. I stepped aside. I didn't. He looked at the empty table, counted the chairs, understood immediately. We sat together, just us. He didn't ask why. He didn't pretend. He reached into his coat and handed me the envelope. "I signed this Tuesday," he said, "before I forget what matters." I didn't open it right away, because something in his voice told me this wasn't a sympathy gesture, it was structural. "You're the only one who reads before signing," he said, "and I need someone who reads." That sentence stayed with me. Inside the envelope were 3 documents: a revised will, a trust amendment, and a notarized letter naming me successor executor, effective immediately. My stomach dropped. "Grandpa!" He raised his hand. "They're pressuring me," he said quietly, "for transfers, for early distributions." I felt something cold move through my chest. "Who?" He looked tired. "Everyone." That's when the empty table stopped being about Thanksgiving and started being about leverage. 3 weeks earlier, my brother had asked him to rebalance assets. My sister had offered to help manage liquidity. My mother had scheduled estate planning updates without including me. I had noticed small irregularities in conversation, subtle references to refinancing, a rushed property appraisal, a draft deed transfer floated casually at dinner. I dismissed them, because suspicion feels cruel in families. Now I held legal authority in my hands, and I realized something else. They didn't know. They believed I was isolated, peripheral, emotionally fragile, uninformed. They thought leaving me alone at a holiday table weakened me. They didn't realize it removed their only obstacle. "Don't confront them yet," Grandpa said quietly. "Just read." So I did. The trust amendment was dated 3 days before Thanksgiving. It restricted discretionary withdrawals, required dual authorization for asset liquidation, and, most importantly, triggered automatic audit review if any beneficiary challenged the executor publicly. Public challenge. The phrase felt deliberate, strategic, protective. "Why me?" I asked him softly. He looked directly at me. "Because you don't shout and you don't scare easy." I walked him to the guest room, tucked him in, returned to the kitchen, and spread the documents across the table that no one had come to. That night, I did what I do best. I opened my laptop, requested transaction histories, cross-referenced property filings, checked recent asset transfers against trust permissions. Within an hour, I found it. 3 withdrawals labeled medical contingency, none matching actual expenses. 1 transfer to my brother's new LLC, another to my sister's mortgage escrow. They weren't planning Thanksgiving elsewhere. They were planning something else entirely, and the public challenge clause about the trust suddenly made perfect sense because my sister had already scheduled a family meeting for Christmas. If someone ever made you feel small on purpose, you already understand what happens when you stop playing that role. Christmas was 3 weeks away. They thought it would be about reconciliation. They thought it would be about me apologizing for drama. They thought they still controlled the narrative. They didn't know. The executor controls the room. The family meeting invitation arrived 3 days later. Group text. Cheerful tone. "Let's clear the air before Christmas. We're all family." My sister added a heart emoji. My brother added a thumbs up. My mother wrote, "It's time we act like adults." Adults. That word always meant obedience in our house. They scheduled it at my parents' home. Sunday evening, formal dinner, all beneficiaries present. I noticed the phrasing immediately. Beneficiaries. They weren't gathering for healing. They were gathering for negotiation. My grandfather wasn't invited. That detail mattered most. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I spent the week quietly reviewing everything: property titles, transfer patterns, tax filings, loan structures tied to family assets. There were more medical contingencies, more small reallocations. Nothing dramatic, just enough to erode. Slow harvesting. They assumed I was too emotional to notice, too excluded to be included, too hurt to be strategic. That miscalculation was going to cost them. Sunday arrived cold and bright. I brought dessert. Always bring dessert. It lowers defenses. The dining room table was already set, 6 places. No name cards. My mother smiled tightly when I entered. "You look tired," she said. "I've been reading," I replied. My brother didn't meet my eyes. My sister overcompensated with warmth. We made small talk through appetizers. Politics, weather, property values, the usual neutral terrain. Then my sister cleared her throat. "So, we've all been talking." I waited. She continued. "Grandpa's health is declining. We need to simplify things." Simplify. Another word that always meant control. My brother leaned forward. "There's no reason for complicated trust structures. It's just paperwork." Just paperwork. I set my fork down slowly. "You're proposing what, exactly?" My mother answered, "An accelerated asset redistribution before probate complexities arise." Probate. Interesting choice. My brother slid a folder across the table. Draft agreement, pre-signed by him and my sister. They were prepared, confident. "We just want fairness," he said. Fairness. I opened the folder, read quickly. They were requesting discretionary advances from the trust, framed as family liquidity support. It required unanimous beneficiary agreement and 1 executor signature. Mine. They had no idea. "Grandpa agreed to this?" I asked calmly. My sister hesitated half a second. "He understands we're managing responsibly." Managing. I leaned back, folded my hands. Grandpa amended the trust last week. Silence. My mother blinked. What do you mean? I mean, I'm the successor executor. The temperature in the room dropped. My brother laughed lightly. Since when? Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I let that settle. My sister's face went pale. You're joking. No. My mother straightened. That's impossible. Not legally. I reached into my bag, removed a copy of the notarized amendment, placed it on the table. They read, slowly, expressions shifting from confusion to calculation. You manipulated him, my brother snapped. I held his gaze. No. You isolated him. You left him alone. They understood now, not emotionally, legally. My sister flipped through the pages. Public challenge clause, she read quietly. Yes. If any beneficiary disputes the executor publicly, automatic audit review triggers. My brother's jaw tightened. They hadn't read the fine print. I had. My mother's voice hardened. This is absurd. We're family. Yes, I said evenly. That's why it was written. The room felt smaller, air thinner. My brother leaned forward. You think you can control everything? I don't need to. I just need to enforce it. The power dynamic had shifted, not through shouting, not through tears, through documentation. My sister tried one last angle. We were just trying to protect Grandpa. From what? I asked quietly. Silence. I slid another sheet across the table. Transaction history, highlighted entries, 3 withdrawals labeled medical contingency, no matching invoices, no hospital statements. My brother's face flushed. That's out of context. It's out of compliance. My mother stood abruptly. You've always been dramatic. No, I said softly. I've always been observant. The draft agreement lay untouched between us, their simplification strategy unraveling in real time. But this wasn't the end. It was just the reveal, because they hadn't realized one more thing. Grandpa wasn't as fragile as they assumed, and he wasn't absent from this meeting by accident. The front door opened behind us, footsteps steady, measured. My grandfather walked into the dining room. When my grandfather walked into the dining room, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. He wasn't confused. He wasn't fragile. He wasn't the foggy old man they'd been describing in private phone calls. He was alert, and he was listening. You left me off the invitation, he said quietly. My mother recovered first. Dad, we didn't want to tire you. I'm not tired, he replied. He looked at me. Have they read it? Yes. My brother stood up too fast. Grandpa, she's manipulating. Sit down, my grandfather said calmly. It wasn't loud, but it carried, and my brother sat. Grandpa walked slowly to the table and placed both hands on the wood. That trust amendment, he said evenly, was written because I was being asked to sign things I didn't understand. He looked directly at my mother. You told me it was housekeeping. She opened her mouth. Closed it. He turned to my sister. You told me liquidity was urgent. Then to my brother. You told me business needed bridge funding. You never told me the money was yours. Silence filled the room like smoke. My mother tried one last defense. We were protecting you. From what? He asked softly. From her? He nodded toward me. She reads. That line landed harder than anything else said that night, because reading was never the problem. Control was. My grandfather pulled a folded sheet from his jacket pocket. The audit review has already begun, he said calmly. I hadn't known that part. He looked at me. I signed that too. My sister's voice trembled. You went behind our backs. No, he replied. I finally looked. My brother slammed his palm on the table. This is insane. No, I said quietly. It's oversight. For the first time in my life, I wasn't defending myself. I was enforcing boundaries. My mother's composure cracked. "You've turned her against us." Grandpa shook his head slowly. "No, you did that years ago." He pulled out one more document: revocation of prior informal permissions, formal appointment of neutral fiduciary, immediate freeze on discretionary distributions pending review. "It's done," he said. "Paperwork filed Friday." My brother stared at me like he was seeing a different person. "You planned this." "No," I answered. "I prepared. The difference matters." My sister's voice broke. "So what happens now?" Grandpa answered. "Now," he said quietly, "we account." That word ended the room. There was no shouting, no dramatic exits, no smashed glasses, just the slow collapse of entitlement. Within 2 weeks, the fiduciary completed a preliminary review. Improper distributions flagged, repayment schedule established, future withdrawals restricted to medical and living expenses, transparency mandated. The Christmas family meeting turned into a compliance update. No speeches, no emotional theatrics, just documentation. My mother hasn't forgiven me. She doesn't call, she doesn't visit. She says I humiliated the family. But here's the part she still doesn't understand. Truth isn't humiliation, it's exposure. Grandpa still lives in his house, his accounts monitored by someone neutral, his decisions respected. And for the first time in 35 years, I'm not setting a table hoping someone will come. I host because I choose to, not because I'm trying to earn a seat. They left me alone at Thanksgiving. They thought that meant I was powerless. They forgot something simple. The person who reads the fine print controls the ending. If someone ever made you feel small by excluding you, remember this: silence is not weakness, documentation is not cruelty, and preparation beats performance every time. If this story felt familiar, share it with someone who needs the reminder. And if you've been quietly observing while others underestimated you, keep reading. The ending might already belong to you.